Hello, I'm Dr. Angie McCartney.
And I'm Ruth McCartney.
Welcome to TeaFlix,
where each episode's intimate conversation features a fascinating guest across the spectrum of Beatles world, pop culture, Grammy winners, the music industry, chefs, producers, music stars, actors, and more. So bottoms up and join us as they spill the tea on TeaFlix. Okay. Okay. It says we are live. Good
Hello,
morning.
folks.
Good morning, folks.
Am I live?
Yes, you are. Absolutely.
I have to ask somebody else these days.
Yeah, well, I can test you. Make
just
sure.
checking, yeah.
So, hey, folks everywhere in the world, I hope you're hanging in there and enjoying the World Cup, whichever one of your teams is, you know.
We don't mention it in this
Martin,
house right now.
Martin says, don't even go there.
No, it's a bit like don't mention the war.
Exactly. So this morning, we are absolutely thrilled that this busy, fantastic lady has got time in her schedule for us. Her name is Rikki Klieman. You will, of course, know her from TV. She is one of America's most respected legal commentators, having built an extraordinary career spanning criminal law, television journalism, acting, writing, and public speaking. Renowned for her courtroom expertise and engaging on-air presence, she became a familiar face to millions of viewers through her work as a legal analyst for CBS News and numerous other national TV networks. Born in Chicago, she originally pursued acting, studying theater at Northwestern University before deciding to attend Boston University School of Law, where she earned her Juris Doctor. After serving as a prosecutor in Massachusetts, she established a distinguished criminal defense practice in Boston, specializing in high-profile criminal trials, appellate advocacy, and civil litigation. Try and say that.
No, I give up.
Her legal excellence was recognized early in her career when Time magazine named her one of America's 5 most outstanding women trial lawyers. Klieman successfully transitioned from the courtroom to television, becoming one of the country's best-known legal analysts. She served as an anchor for the Court TV, now True TV, for more than 15 years before joining CBS News. Throughout Rikki's broadcasting career, she has appeared on programs including CBS Mornings, CBS Evening News, the former CBS Early Show, NBC's Today, ABC, CNN, CNBC, MSNBC, and E! As if that, good grief, what a gamut, providing insightful analysis of many of the nation's most significant and criminal and civil legal cases. After more than 2 decades with CBS News, she retired from her role as legal analyst in 2025. In addition to her legal and broadcasting careers, Rikki's maintained an acting career, appearing in television series including Blue Bloods, Las Vegas, Shark, and NYPD Blue, as well as feature films including The Cable Guy, Civil Action, and The Fighter. As an author, she wrote the best-selling memoir, Fairy Tales Can Come True, a fabulous read. Get yours now. Dun, 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 dun. And on the back is her handsome husband, William Bratton. How a Driven Woman Changed Her Destiny, which chronicles her journey from aspiring actress to nationally recognized attorney and TV personality. She's also authored numerous legal articles and contributed to books on trial advocacy and criminal law. She's also enjoyed distinguished academic careers teaching trial advocacy and litigation at Columbia Law School in Boston, while lecturing at institutions including Harvard and the National Criminal Defense College. As I mentioned, she's married to William J. Bratton, the internationally recognized law enforcement leader who served as the police commissioner of New York City and the chief of the Los Angeles, I'm going to take that out because I'm whistling on you, chief of the Los Angeles Police Department and the commissioner of New York City. Together, they've been active in civic, educational, and charitable organizations, particularly those supporting youth, public safety, and criminal justice. Today, Rikki is widely regarded as one of America's foremost legal communicators, admired for her ability to translate complex legal issues into clear, accessible language, whilst drawing upon decades of courtroom experience, journalistic integrity, media expertise. And without further ado, confetti drops out of the sky. The crowd goes wild. Welcome, Rikki Klieman.
Hi, Rikki. Hello. Lovely to see you.
It's lovely to see you both. When I listened to that introduction, I think I must have cloned myself on a regular basis, or else I might be one of the people who has reached the age of 150. But it's all true.
It's absolutely fascinating. So thank you so much for taking time out to join us today. I know how.
By the way, folks,
crazy
I've
busy.
got ear trouble this morning. I can't hear very well.
That's quite all right. we'll just speak a bit. We'll speak up a bit. We'll do
Speak
that.
up a bit,
Okay,
yes.
fine. But you can still ask Rikki your well-researched questions.
So yeah, Rikki, you've enjoyed extraordinary success as a trial attorney, a television journalist, an author, an actress and speaker. Looking back, was there any single moment when you realized your career was about to take an unexpected turn?
I think that when I was practicing law and I was asked to come to New York, this is back in 1994, to appear as a commentator. That is, I'd come on for a couple of hours one day on a fledgling network called Court TV. That when we couldn't find a date. We kept going back and forth. And when they wanted me, I couldn't go. When I wanted to go, they didn't need me. So finally I said, I'm going to do this. I will give you 2 days of my vacation. And my first 2 days, I will come down to New York. I'll appear whenever you want during those 2 days. So I go down there, and it would be whatever was going to be the trial of the day, whether it was civil, whether it was criminal. I didn't care. I did both. And it wound up being the O.J. Simpson preliminary hearing. And during that week, there was an article in the New York Daily News, then a very, very well-read paper, where the writer who wrote about the media did a review of the so-called new legal eagles. And Greta Van Susteren and I got this great review. And when I saw the review, I said, you know, this is going to change my life. I didn't know how, but I knew that the review made the difference. So that was a aha moment.
Wow. I haven't heard the name Greta Van Susteren in a good
long
while.
time.
Yeah, good while. She was very prominent in the old days. So how on earth would you, like, you get on TV and all of a sudden they throw O.J. Simpson at you? And did you have access to, obviously we didn't have AI, but did you have access to information that, like, us the unwashed wouldn't have on the internet or through police departments? How would you research something like that?
Well, at the time, the internet was something that I don't even know, frankly, now that you say that, if the internet was even working at that particular time. We'd have to go back, look at Google or some other search engine or AI chatbot and find out when the internet was actually flourishing. I barely knew how to turn on a computer in those days. I remember leaving my law firm and going down first to be a commentator, and then eventually a number of months later being asked to audition to anchor the O.J. Simpson case, and going down to New York to train on air in order to be able to go to California to anchor the case. And when that happened, I said to my then executive assistant, which in those days was called a secretary, I said to my secretary, Paula, can you show me how to use a computer? I literally had no one had in those days.
No.
In a law firm, you depended on dictating to a secretary who would then type and put it in the computer. So when I got to Court TV, one of the things that I would do on a regular basis would be call Paula and say, and now what do I do? You know, and those were the days where, you know, you had to have a key like F1, F4, one of those to do something. So she was my tutor from afar. So there was no such thing as researching the case to begin with. But once the motions started to be filed, we, of course, at Court TV had a person or many people in California who would go to the courthouse and be able to get the motions, to be able to transmit them to the anchors who were then the anchors to be of the trial. This is pre-trial for the motions, where we would get the actual filings. So we did it the old-fashioned way. I mean, you'd read the memoranda, you literally or I literally would go to a law library. I mean, it wasn't like Court TV had a library. I would go to a law school and go to the law library to look up cases to teach me what the precedent was. Once we got into the trial, so now we're entering 1995, at that point, just as in every trial, the trial is a living, breathing thing. Court TV did the trial gavel to gavel. So you were, in essence, part of the trial as an observer. So you were commenting with, or you were asking questions and commenting with your experts. So I would have with me on the set, say in the scaffolding in Los Angeles, across the courthouse, where we all had Camp OJ. And you would look, you would have a prosecutor, you'd have a defense lawyer. If we were talking about science, you'd have two experts who could help you through the science. And a trial is really not so much about law. A trial is about facts and the rules of evidence. Well, if I didn't know how to deal with the rules of evidence and procedure after practicing law and trying cases for 20 years, then what was that 20 years for? So I understood all of that. When it came to looking up law, we had then research assistants, and they could go to the law library. But it is a long way from those hands in the books days, eyes down on the paper, to the internet, and from the internet, let alone to AI.
Well, and the thing is with the internet is, garbage in, garbage out. Even though the internet was around in 1994, that's when we started our business in Nashville. All of the cases hadn't been scanned and uploaded yet, right?
Right. I mean, I'm sure that's true.
There was no library of things, but nowadays AI will hallucinate. You can ask it a question like, how many E's in the word 17? And it'll say quite confidently, there are 2 E's in the word 17, and there are 4.
Correct. And one of the things that we've now learned, which I find fascinating when I read these news articles, is that there have been lawyers foolish enough to present briefs to courts without that were done by AI, and they did not personally check the citations. And AI, in order to please you, because you've created a problem for it to solve, AI would make up cases. It would totally create them. So lawyers have been sanctioned for doing such things. One of the things that's interesting about AI and the law, legal cases, I have worked now, I think it's over 35 years, on a book supplement that is bringing the cases in a law book, meaning literally a law book or in your computer, called Representing Witnesses Before Federal Grand Juries. And my job is to, even though you can tell by that, my job has gotten very busy in recent years. The job of doing that means that if we last did a supplement 6 months ago, I need to find the 6 months of cases that happened and then update the citations with an explanation at various parts of the book. So I have done this with a person I call the Kid, who has done it with me for 35 years, a wonderful researcher and writer named John Thomas, who lives in Provincetown, Massachusetts. So he and I are like a well-oiled machine. And John looks up the cases. He sends them to me in email. I read them. He reads them. And then we work out our writing and editing together. We check each other's work. We will not use AI to be able to update these cases, not only because we've done it this way for 35 plus years, but because it's too chancy at this stage. Because AI may just decide it doesn't like what this case says because it would have ruled another way. So we can't take that chance.
Oh, wow. It's incredible. I mean, people are now talking about, oh, they can abolish jury duty and just hand it over to 100 AIs. Well, yeah, no, sorry, but
well, actually, Ruth, what's really frightening about that thought is that right now, theoretically, AI does not have consciousness, nor does AI have a conscience. So the idea that AI creatures, as I call them, would decide someone's fate, whether it's about life and liberty or whether it's a monetary damages decision, to me, that is terrifying.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. But, everybody's all excited on what, grown-ups are terrified of it, and rightly so. But, you talk to kids just going into or coming out of college, that 4-year age gap, and they're like, oh, we'll just have AI do everything. We'll get a universal income and sit on the couch. No, you won't.
Have you ever chat GPT'd yourself? I did. And oh boy, did I learn things I didn't know about myself.
Are you 5'9"?
No.
Oh, Angie and I are wishing we were 5'9", both of us.
After I shrunk, Rikki, I used to be 4'11" and a half, and now I'm 4'10".
Well, Angie,
I know where the inch and a half have gone, below the waist,
outwards.
that way.
Well, unfortunately for all of us as we get older, but particularly women, we will all lose. I don't care how many Pilates classes we've done. I don't care how much calcium we're taking. There comes a point where you are going to lose height. It's just, the way of the world. And in terms of getting whiter, I think both men and women would say, wow, what happened to my waistline? It just kind of keeps getting bigger and bigger, no matter what you do. I don't care how many crunches. I don't care how many alternative exercises one does to try and keep their core firm. It doesn't stop that widening process unless you have an eating disorder.
Right. Well, I just like to refer to mine as my dining experience collection.
I got it.
Yeah.
Nicely put.
So back to the cases in courtrooms.
So you've argued cases in courtrooms where the stakes couldn't have been higher. How did those kind of experiences prepare you for explaining complicated legal issues to millions of people on television?
Well, I think they served me really well. And I think that the distinction of my legal analysis and that of many others, not all, but many others, is that I think in the years that I was on TV as a legal analyst from 1994 and through and including 2005, which is a long time, I think I'm one of the only, but maybe the only, but one of the only people who had tried cases for almost 20 years, 19 to be precise, and tried both civil cases and criminal cases. Mm-hmm. And I do think that there's a difference by virtue of experience, because I understand and understood during those years the rules of evidence, the rules of procedure, which are critical. Now, that doesn't mean I didn't have to go learn rules of evidence and procedure if it was in a different state, because there are little nuances that are different state to state. But I also tried a lot of federal cases, and so by civil and criminal. And as a result, the federal rules of criminal and civil procedure, they may get amended over the years, but that's simple to understand. And on the grand jury side, I'm always looking at amendments anyway, as I have to update for my book. Wow. So there's a distinction. I heard recently, this is a good example. I heard recently a legal analyst whom I like on a network, major network, discussing the Luigi Mangione case. Right. And why on one day the lawyers had announced that they were going to go forward with an insanity defense. and why on the next day they said they weren't. And this particular legal analyst gave a very good explanation the first day as to why they might have chosen to go forward with an insanity defense. In the sense, let me put it this way: in New York, it's not a full-blown insanity defense. It would be what some people would call a diminished capacity defense, that it would reduce if the jury found that they believed that he was really acting under some kind of mental disease or defect, that it would reduce murder to manslaughter. That's a big difference. That's life in prison to a much, much lesser sentence. Big win if a jury came back that way, and a very good case for a compromise verdict. So it's very clear why they would choose to go forward with an insanity defense when you have, again, a diminished capacity defense, when you have a homicide that takes place on camera. I mean, we have a video of it that we will all see, and we learn, or a jury will learn, about his planning for this particular homicide, which some people would call an assassination. So to have some kind of diminished capacity defense made a lot of sense. The following day, the exact same legal analyst who was so articulate about why they would choose a diminished capacity defense then was asked why they would go back on it. And I listened to this analyst's explanation. And I said to my husband, as we both watched the morning segments, I said, that analyst is completely wrong. Completely wrong. And the reason I think that that person was completely wrong was because that person had not tried cases for the 20 years or 19 years that I tried cases, and had not been in the courtroom and dealt with the criminal process as much as I had, where there are a lot of reasons why you might decide against it. And the ones that were stated were absolutely wrong. They weren't sort of wrong. They were really wrong. And I had this feeling, and which I rarely have, of saying, oh boy, I should have been doing this segment. And I don't mean to be ego-centered about this. What you need is someone who has tried these kinds of cases to be able to understand strategy and tactics. It's not what happens only in the courtroom. It's what happens before the trial starts and what happens in negotiations between the prosecutor and the defendant, or in a civil case between a plaintiff and a defendant. It's one of the things. Luigi Mangioni's case makes me crazy anyway, but one of the things that what people don't understand is there were these big news stories, and these big news stories about that, oh, there were plea bargaining discussions. Well, give me a break. Virtually every case, not every, but pretty darn close case, has plea bargaining discussions, because you would not, as a defense lawyer, be doing your job if you didn't at least see what the options were. So, I mean, to me, that wasn't even a news story. That was, oh, okay, business as usual. But the news media made it a news story.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like that the analyst you're talking about is obviously inexperienced, but is literally just reading the black and white of it. But once you involve all of the personalities, the coulda, shoulda, wouldas, and the whys, that the gray becomes a color in the palette, doesn't it? The gray areas of, well, could we negotiate this? Could the plea bargain do that? And then you add the emotions and stress and lifestyles of a jury to the whole thing. And, you both sides have a lot of explaining to do.
Indeed, they do. I will say this, so I can show that I also have a very humble side. There is a legal analyst who has never tried cases that I know of, who I think is terrific. And that certainly is Dan Abrams. And Dan Abrams, who is on ABC News, Dan was the reporter for the O.J. Simpson case when I was the anchor, when we were based in Los Angeles during 1995. And Dan spent years in his work at Court TV in the courtrooms of America. And I think Dan, by being as smart as he is and being a good observer and being someone who was the son of a brilliant First Amendment lawyer, his father, Floyd Abrams, that Dan absorbed so much because of his Court TV years that, I mean, his analysis, I think, is really top shelf.
He's almost a trial lawyer by osmosis, huh?
Correct. Very well said.
But if, you know, he wouldn't also have had that experience without hearing and feeling every word that was spoken in the courtroom and being a reporter and being behind the scenes and all of that stuff. So, I mean, he may not have passed the bar and done the job, but he certainly sat in on, you know, all of those experiences. Ange has a sort of a feminist-based question.
Yes, I have. As one of the first women to become nationally recognized in criminal law, did you ever feel you had to work twice as hard to earn the same respect as your male colleagues?
I give you a big yes. And I think that you can each appreciate it. I remember there were so few women in the law at the time that I started to practice, and particularly few women on the criminal side of the law. In Los Angeles, you had the extraordinary Leslie Abramson, who was one of the trial lawyers on the Menendez case back in the day. Right. You had Juanita Brooks out of San Diego, Judy Clark, the death penalty lawyer. She came a little later, but not much. Brilliant. And in Boston, where I was, there was a woman named Nancy Gertner who became a federal judge. And there was me doing these cases. Wow. And so when I first started working, before I became a public prosecutor, I was working, waiting for that slot to open. I had been offered a job, but you had to wait for the slot. It was slotted by statute, how many people worked in each DA's office. And now that I think of it, to bring this up to your listeners and your viewers, the person I was waiting to go to work for was John Kerry, who later on became the Secretary of State, and then was in the news these days, looking back at the Obama-Iran deal, for better or for worse. When, excuse me, John became the first assistant DA in Middlesex County, which was Cambridge, Massachusetts, he went looking for people that he took out of big law firms, and he actually took a number of women. I mean, the day I started, there were two other women, both of whom became state court judges. But before I could get that job, meaning before the slot opened, I worked for a criminal defense lawyer on whatever the temporary basis would be until the job opened. So he sends me to court, and I get to the courthouse, and they immediately ask if I'm the court reporter because I'm a woman. Yeah. And I said, no, I'm the lawyer. And they kind of looked strangely at me. Wow. Another thing, I have some wonderful little tidbits from those days. I go out for the criminal defense lawyer to a little bit outside of Boston, to a town called Worcester. And when I get to Worcester, I go to open the little door, which comes up to your waist, to get beyond the rail where the lawyers are supposed to be. And I got just absolutely surrounded by the court officers, who all said, Miss, you're not supposed to be here. You're supposed to be sitting back there. And I said, no, I'm here to appear on behalf of the defendant. And they were incredulous. They were absolutely incredulous. And my third little anecdote, which is my favorite, I'm a young prosecutor, and you have what they call the call of the list. And what that means is there is a judge in each county, and one of the things he or she would do is his or her assignment. Well, I guess in those days it was his assignment.
Yeah.
His assignment was for the day, every case that was put up for any purpose, besides it being in a jury trial, would go to the call of the list. So it might have been an arraignment, it might have been a bail review, it might have been a status conference, it might have been a motion hearing. They're all in his courtroom. Okay. So as a young prosecutor, you're doing all kinds of things. So when the call of the list began in the morning, I was presenting a case to the grand jury downstairs. And when the judge called it, someone from the DA's office said, Your Honor, Ms. Klieman is down at the grand jury. She'll be up later. So it took me a few hours to get up there. And what they do is they call it again later on. So I come down the center aisle few hours later, and I was wearing a dress, not a suit, a dress, a very appropriate tailored dress, but it had a fuller skirt. And I walk up to in front of the bench.
Here it comes.
And the judge said, "Oh, Miss Klieman, how nice of you to join us. I'm glad that you finally had some time." And I said, "I'm sorry, Your Honor, I was before the grand jury." And he said, "Oh, and what a pretty dress. Would you do a pirouette for me?" So I, understanding the value of humor, because I was going to have to appear before this judge for years of my life. And I didn't want my cases to suffer. So I said, "Your Honor, with pleasure." And I did a little pirouette to the right. And then I did a little pirouette to the left. And he said, "Thank you, Ms. Klieman. Let's get down to business now." Now,
wow.
If that was the smartest, coolest, greatest move I ever made. Yeah. Because although it was dramatically over the top sexist, if I had refused and then reported him for his terrible sexist treatment, one day when I became, which I did, a criminal defense lawyer, every client of mine would have suffered. Instead, I owned that courtroom for the rest of my days that I was ever in it. If he was
that's incredible. But the immediate visceral reaction of yours to say, "Let's not make this a battle of wills. I'm just going to bend to your will because at some point you're going to have to bend to mine." Right? Or not bend to my will, but consider
absolutely.
Consider the evidence in an unbiased fashion, like a proper judge.
Well, can you imagine in today's world with younger women after the Me Too movement, if a judge dared do something like that? I mean, any female lawyer would go to war with him about it. But, you had to have humor. I look back to Ruth and Angie about the days of sexual harassment for a young female lawyer. And a young female lawyer who at that time had hair way down. I looked something like a cross between Joan Baez and Buffy St. Marie. And so you were a target because you were, I could have been hideous. I mean, I was lucky that I, was respectably decent looking. And everybody who would hit on you, the cops would hit on you, the court officers would hit on you, the lawyers would hit on you. But the real trick was, what do you do when the judge hits on you? And I have stories that I could probably build a dynasty if I ever told them in public to this day. But I will say this, there were situations where, because a lot of times you're called into the judge's chambers for various things, whether it's usually with an opponent, and then the judge says, Ms. Klieman, would you wait a few minutes and I have something to discuss with you? And so the other lawyers leave, and there you are. And so how do you handle that? Because no one is going to just barge into a judge's chambers. He does not need to lock the door, because no one's going to do that. Because someone's going to knock, the judge is going to say who's there. So there were some interesting experiences, which again, I always thankfully got out of with humor. I mean, because there was no other way to get out of them. I mean, I once had a judge who literally chased me around a desk. And it was, in retrospect, kind of hilarious. But at the time, it was pretty kind of scary. And I got out of it with humor, because I finally stopped and put my hands on his desk. And I said, Judge, whoa. I said, I got to appear in front of you tomorrow. And though I really think you're terrific and you're wonderfully attractive, I said, don't you think we would feel ridiculous tomorrow? And so I started laughing, and he started laughing, and he let me go, and he never approached me again. But I mean, there's not a lot of people who would ever have that presence of mind. And that situation should never, ever, ever happen to any woman at any time. And bravo for the young women of today who would never tolerate that for one solitary second. I had to figure out how to get out of it. And, was very confused about what to do, except laugh. Not exactly a very brave defense, but a defense nonetheless. And I'm grateful that nothing bad ever happened.
Well, I've been through it. It's not appropriate for this show because I'm hoping you'll be able to reuse this recording, but our regular viewers know some of my experiences in the music business and the film business and filming commercials with actors who they've got one line in a Jell-O commercial, but they want you to come to their bungalow at the Beverly Hills Hotel to run lines at 3:00 in the morning. And so, you could see the writing on the wall. You knew it was going to happen. But do you think nowadays, I mean, I don't think that instinct has stopped. It hasn't made the nasty judges suddenly turn good and be nice. I mean, if there are women or men, because, there may be some gay judges, who knows?
I agree with you, Ruth. I think whether it's judges who have power, whether it's a CEO who has power, whether it's a musician or a producer in the world of whether it's music or film or television, the power relationship, no matter how much the Me Too movement in 2017 started a societal and cultural revolution, the ways of men and women always go back to the ways of men and women. And women, unfortunately, still have to be on their guard because there are men who take advantage. Now, lest I be accused of true sexism in that comment, we know that there are situations where the genders are reversed, where you have a very powerful woman who goes after a less powerful male. And we're certainly seeing that in the news today played out. And, people don't quite get it, that a woman would act as a sexual predator, but it has happened. But it does tend to be male in a superior position, female in a less superior position. But it can happen both ways. And let me also, to be totally politically correct, and because it's true, this also happens in relationships that are homosexual and gay. It's not just heterosexual relationships where this balance of power is so unbalanced that someone is put in a very difficult situation in business.
What would you think now would be, I'm imagining a scenario where the more powerful person, a judge, maybe a male, is trying to oppress or, solicit And whether it's sex or whether it's just the appearance of I have power over you to anybody in the legal profession. I mean, what is that person in the, as we say in German, Minderheit, in the lesser position of power, what are they supposed to do nowadays? Because if they don't cry out, they're a traitor to the Me Too movement. But if they do cry out, they are in exactly the same jeopardy as you found yourself in, as whether that powerful judge may say, I'm going to go against you in all of your cases. It's a terrible position to be in.
It is a terrible position to be in. I think nowadays, and certainly you'll get comments from your listeners and viewers, I think nowadays that I'm going to use the male female because it's just easier for me to not have to do all three, that if for the sake of explanation, that today using the law, what a female lawyer should do besides get herself out of the room is make a complaint immediately and then file a motion that for every case that ever appears before this particular judge, that the judge must recuse himself so that you don't jeopardize your client. And think about it this way. What about the public prosecutor? I was a public prosecutor when I had that pirouette incident, which I am so fond of, which I really mean I am so fond of because it's such a great story.
It is.
But you know that if you're a prosecutor, you've got a bigger problem because you're always appearing. How are you going to ask the judge to recuse himself when he's calling the list? So you're going to have to then send in a colleague in your place.
Wow.
And I think it would be good for me, since I mentor enough young people in the legal profession. I really am going to ask that question of one of my mentees and see what her advice would be at the age of 30. Because times have changed as to how you would handle this situation.
Right.
I mean, I think of it in reverse. I remember right after, in the fall of 2017, after Bill O'Reilly, Harvey Weinstein, then you had the three media people. You had my dear friend, whom I still love, Charlie Rose, Mark Halperin, who remains a very close friend, right at that time, and one other, I'm missing one, of the media people.
Like Matt Lauer.
Matt Lauer, of course. Thank you very much. And Matt Lauer, which was the three major networks, who had accusations leveled against them. And so at that point in time, right in that fallout, I remember coming off air and going into the newsroom to find out about an assignment. And without thinking, from behind, a very good friend who's a male producer, from behind, he was in the chair, and I came around to ask him a question. And I leaned over him, put my arms around him from the back, and I said to him, come on, tell me what I have to do this afternoon. And I saw myself like from above, and I went, oh my God. I said, I am really sorry. I didn't mean this. I will never do this again. I am really sorry. This was really a mistake. I was hysterical. I thought I was going to get fired. And it was an innocent moment with a very good friend. And he was great. I will always be grateful to him because he turned up and he looked up at me and he said, I give you full permission to have touched me the way you just did. And he said, and I wouldn't have it any other way. And just remember this, Rikki, I'm the producer. You're the talent. I'm in charge of you. And so he deflected. I mean, I was terrified. I was absolutely terrified. And for a long time, walking around the newsroom, you kind of kept your hands like this. You know, you really didn't want to touch anyone. And I'm a very physical person, but it was too risky. It was just too risky. I hope it's not that way now because people should be allowed to touch their friends.
Yes, I 100% agree. We had a couple of weeks ago, we had director and actor Bo Brinkman on of Gettysburg fame. And he was saying now, SAG has obviously, Screen Actors Guild have not only intimacy coordinators on the set now, but they also have PAs who will be kind of spies for Screen Actors Guild. So he said, I can't take an actor or an actress aside anymore, put my arm around and say, can you step outside? I want to give you a note. He said, I have to do this. There are Screen Actors Guild instructions now for sets. You can't even do that.
Well, there does come a point where we have gone so overboard.
Yeah.
When I think of the television acting I did, so I remember when I was filming in, wow, were those wonderful times in LA when I was filming as the lawyer for Jimmy Kahn and Josh Duhamel in the NBC series Las Vegas.
Yep.
And our scenes for quite a long time were really kind of just us and maybe one other person, because they were talked to their lawyer in the office in private. And then I came for another script, another episode, and I had a walk and talk, as they call it, in the casino set for the series Las Vegas. And I had never been on the casino set. And when I tell you it's like a real casino in Las Vegas,
wow,
the noise level and the machines and all the background people who are playing all the games in the casino. And I had to walk with a female actress from one end to the other through, the machines and through the noise, and have a lawyer-client discussion with her as we walked.
Okay.
So as we're beginning to walk, all this tumult was around me, and I froze. In the first take, I froze. Like I couldn't comprehend how I was going to do this walk. Yep. So using your story, your true story about what's happening with the Screen Actors Guild, the director at the time did the best thing he could do. He took me aside and he said, just give me a minute with Rikki. And he put his arm around me. And he said, look, I've seen what you've done on this show. He said, you're a talented actor. He said, you have absolutely the ability to do what you do in the Jimmy Kahn, Josh Duhamel office while walking through the noise. He said, I want you to just focus on the other actress and just do, I know what it was. He said, do you meditate? And I said, yes, I do. Yeah. And he said, just like your meditation, he said, I want you to focus only on the actress. And he said, the camera is going to lead you through, and your peripheral vision will see the camera. The actress sees the camera. He said, you just walk with her and act like there's nothing there and tune out all the noise. Yeah. Well, if he had never had that moment with me, I probably would have never been able to do another episode. And then after that, it was easy. But it needed that intimate contact to be able to make me feel okay.
Oh, it's just, I know, you're right. It's gone too far. But thankfully, there are memoirs and books like yours, Fairy Tales Can Come True, A Driven Woman's Destiny. What message from the good old days, let's call it, what message for people who buy the book, who will reread it as we did this past week? What's the overarching message that as an author you tried to bring to this book? And was it aimed at women specifically or just humanity or?
Humanity. It's interesting. I mean, women in particular gravitate toward this book, but you can tell even by those who blurbed it, the men who blurbed it, it touches men as well as women. And what it was really meant, as I say, there's identification because there's universality in detail. Yeah. My experiences happen to be mine, but most or many people have similar experiences. Yeah. And so they identify with it along the way, even though their experience was different. the emotional content is the same.
Uh-huh.
I wrote that book so long ago when I really did not know where my life was going, because I was leaving the job I loved more than I breathed, which was being an anchor at Court TV. I was
Right.
moving across the country from a city that I love, New York, to Los Angeles. My husband had become the police chief of Los Angeles.
Yay.
And he's, was fabulous there when what he did there in terms of a transition about police relations with the community was phenomenal.
BBB, bring back Bill.
Yes, well, we all really love Bill. I mean, Bill is legendary.
Yes.
And so I went from being Rikki Klieman,
Court TV.
lawyer, Court TV anchor, Time Magazine, a public speaker, to being the chief's wife.
Yep.
And so I didn't know what career, if any, I was going to have after that. Wow. And my message about that was, because the title says it all, fairy tales can come true, but there's a subtitle, which was what I wanted for the title of the book, which was How a Driven Woman Changed Her Destiny. So way back then, my message was that in the end, your personal life is more important.
Yep.
Now, I don't want to say, but it's true. It took me another practically quarter of a century to actually live in that space. I mean, I lived it in part, but I was still as driven as could be. It was just that I put aside certain things in order to, when Bill and I had competing interests, I was willing to let Bill be first, but not all the time. And it was still, we were working people, and we continued to each work at full tilt, but with respect for each other and support of each other. I mean, my favorite moments are when Bill comes to one of my speaking engagements and he says, "Hi, let me introduce myself. I'm Rikki Klieman's husband." I mean, I melt because it's a love affair, and it continues to be. But I didn't understand what I really meant about your private life, your personal life, the things that really mean something.
Right.
I really didn't get it until I finally ended my television career after 30 years. And that was really 50 years of work. Now I understand it. But I'm not saying that everyone out there has to stop working in their primary career. I'm still working in my other careers. But it's really true that in order to have a lasting, loving relationship, that each person has to give 100% of the time. That you have to, it's not 50-50, it's 100-100.
Yeah.
And those are the relationships that work. I mean, look at yours. Look at you and Martin. You work together. And you're partners. You're really partners. And with Angie, you're a triumvirate.
Yes,
so,
we are. Human tripod. The human tripod. So it has to be 100 every 4 years, in as much as, so you mean there's 104 2.5-hour soccer games in the next 5 weeks?
Well, it's we learn. We learn.
Okay, I guess I'll be making football food then instead of trying to time a meal. I will say, though, for the World Cup and for soccer, timing soccer food is easier than trying to time a Sunday night NFL season game dinner, because I have discovered that in American sports, NFL minutes are like dog years. It's 7-1. 2 minutes left to play. There's 14 minutes on the screen. Absolutely. So, but
don't start, Ruth.
They have to get their ads in. They have to, these major networks have to pay these fabulous people and the production crews and what have you. So, they have to make their money.
Yeah. It's my turn now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rikki, you've appeared in so many major television networks. Does live television ever give you the butterflies, or have you learned to enjoy the adrenaline?
Both. I have never appeared on TV in the thousands of appearances, I would say, over 30 years.
Yeah.
Nor have I ever given a public speech to a group of people without having butterflies. I think they're healthy for me, maybe not for everyone, but they're very healthy for me because they make me better. I'm one of those people who always is afraid of not being perfect. And when you're on live TV, it's going out there, baby. You know, it is sailing out there. And if you make a mistake, you can't take it back unless you recognize it at that moment that you made the mistake.
Unless it's Night Live, you can make it funny.
Yeah, right. Or it's like we say in the kitchen culinary world, you can't uncrack an egg.
Right, exactly right. And so, I mean, I've had moments where I've heard myself speak and then I said, wait, let me do that again. And literally said it again. But I have had one in particular where I didn't really understand I had made a major mistake. Like I had talked about the facts of a case incorrectly. And meaning not the case I was doing, but an analogy to another case. And as soon as I got off air, I went, I think that was wrong. So I looked up on my phone the other case, which was about, I don't know, 10 years older. And I immediately got in touch with the executive producer. And I said, what I did was I talked about someone who had actually been dead before the incident occurred and acted as if, talked about this person as if the person were still alive when the incident occurred. And I said, I really made a serious factual error and it needs to be corrected. So we corrected it for the West Coast feed because we had enough time.
Sure.
We took it off the internet, you know, because usually this segment goes on the internet.
Sure.
And I don't know if it was edited or it never went on. So it had gone out initially, and I asked them to please do a correction somewhere. I'm not sure where they did it, but it was very disturbing to me. So yes, I get butterflies. Does the adrenaline make me better? I think so. Yes. For heaven's sake, I didn't have butterflies for this podcast because I know you both so well. Yeah. Because I should tell people, I mean, you did my website. I have known you since I think 2002. Yeah. I think that's correct. And although I don't see you because we're on opposite coasts, in person, I have an enormous fondness in addition to a business relationship for the two of you, for Ruth, for your husband Martin, and for people who have worked for you with you.
Thank
you. So this is like, if I look at this and the way I looked at it, this is a conversation of old friends. You know, that's a lot easier. Yeah. That's a lot easier.
Yeah. But it's fascinating for the audience. The whole point of TeaFlix is that, you know, our steadfast viewers and then the thousands of people who see it on YouTube, we wanted it to feel more like being sort of a guest at the table or a fly on the wall, if you will, at, you know, tea or wine with Ange and water with Rikki, and just be able to pop on and off and put in comments and ask questions and so on and so forth. So, yeah, no, I didn't expect you to get butterflies. It's just little old us from Operation Feed the Chief.
Well, I don't think of it as little old you. I just think of it as, you know, I wish I was there with you in person because I would have a lot of fun when it was over.
I know. I'll never forget that 4th of July when you and Chief Bratton came over and John Miller was here with his little girl who was, I think, she was just walking. Maybe she was 18 months old and she was crawling up and down our stairs. And of course, wherever the chief, LAPD chief went on the 4th of July, security was not far behind, and we were trying to have a nice quiet barbecue, and there was a helo like every half an hour there was a bird above the house checking it.
And the fact that security would go to your house first to check it out, and security would be outside.
Yes, that's right.
But my husband is inordinately fond of you, as am I, and I can still think of all that great food that day.
Well, I know he's a cat person, and at the time he came in, and one of our new adopted kitties was sitting on the bar stool right here, and Bill came in and he picked the little orange kitty up, and he said, "Oh, this is so cute." And then another one walked through. He said, "Oh my gosh, how many cats do you have?" And I said, 5. He's like, "Shh, sorry, rewind. I didn't hear that. You're only allowed to have 3 in LA." So, of course, we immediately...
it was a lesson learned.
We immediately told everyone we had 3 cats for the rest of our... We have none now. But when
That's
the police...
actually frightening.
Yes, right?
Yeah.
When the police chief tells you you're only allowed 3 cats, then you only have 3 cats. That's just how that works. That's right. So you talked about, in closing, you talked about being a mentor to people, which is fantastic. If a young person who may also happen to be a woman came to you today hoping to become a successful attorney, being fully aware of the internet and television and TikTok and whatever, what typical advice would you give them from your media perspective that you were not taught in law school?
I think the primary advice is be prepared, be assertive, and your word is your bond.
Yes.
So whatever you are going to say, whether it will say you're graduating law school, you've gotten your first job, or you're looking for your first job, do not overstate your credentials. Say what you mean and be able to prove it up. And don't necessarily say what you think they want you to say.
Okay.
You have to be authentic.
Yeah.
You cannot be me. I cannot be you. I always say you should always be the best that you can be as to who you are. And if you're a jerk, then be the best jerk you can be. And I've said it, a number of times. But
we know some of them.
Oh yeah, don't we all?
I really think that the danger is certainly in my era. I mean, I'm not 22, 25 years old where I'm going out in the world for the first time. Generation Z, Generation Alpha to follow that they may have a different perspective than I have. But right. I do think that the idea is to really be authentic, but right. You've got to remember you've got to work hard and you have to prove yourself. Even if you think you might be the greatest in the world, you're beginning. Yep. And in my life, I look at every time I do something that I'm beginning again. And you have to be open to criticism that's constructive or you'll never get better.
Yeah, well, and, I tell myself all of the qualities that, you have to be authentic, but kindness costs nothing. Punctuality costs nothing. Checking in on people costs nothing nowadays. And so there are so many ways that you can build authenticity into your life that even if you don't have the money, find the time, just be the best, be you, like you just said, be the best you can be, because life may not be a deposition today, but, when you meet your maker, right?
I couldn't agree with you more. And I will say that the people who have sent me an email or gone to the media site to be able to get in touch with me, the ones who I answer and then sometimes develop a relationship with are the ones who are persistent and kind. Yes. No false flattery, just kind. I mean, I look at this and I can leave you with this thought. You should find joy in your life every day. There's always joy somewhere in your day. Even if you're looking at a flower, that there is joy every day.
Yep.
And that you should do something kind for someone every day.
Yep.
And that takes nothing except having a good heart.
And it gives you back so much, doesn't it?
It's the best gift. The best gift.
Eventually, you know, I will pick out somebody who looks at Trader Joe's who is maybe particularly overweight or looks very unsure of themselves, and I'll say to that person, wow, that's a great color on you. It really it brings out your character, and you can see it made their day. And it took me 3 seconds.
I'm totally on that train. My husband says to me, is there any place that you can go where you don't talk to someone? And I said no, because it's the person who you encounter in your daily life.
That's right.
And it's the person who's at the cashier. It's the person, you know, who's cutting the meat or the fish. Or it's the person walking down the street, for heaven's sake.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Martin's the same with me. It's like, oh my God, she never met a stranger. And now there's a series of these progressive insurance commercials. They are not a sponsor. I wish they were. Saying, you know, you can avoid becoming your parents. Which is like you and I would just go and talk to complete strangers just for the chance.
Be like that.
To pay them a compliment. So thank you so much for spending time with us today. We do have one last little gift for you, but for our viewers and listeners, you absolutely must pick up a copy of Fairy Tales Can Come True: How a Driven Woman Changed Her Destiny. I'm going to open up the actual, so you get the whole deal of the thing. You can find it wherever fine books are sold. And you may not know this, but Angie is the author of a book called Mrs. McCartney's Liverpool Limericks and Other Random Irish Haikus. And so she put pen to paper this weekend. And thank you, Sammy from Atlanta. Thank you, everybody. You bring the sunshine. Yes, Rikki does. She absolutely brings the sunshine and the facts. Ma'am, nothing but the facts. So Anne's put pen to paper this weekend, and if you are sitting comfortably, we'll sign off with our limerick. Do you want to count in your timing, Madame?
1, 2, 3.
We met Rikki Klieman with grace, whose sharp wit would win every case.
On screen.
You know what? We screwed that up. Let's do it again.
One more time.
Because we can do it again, because I have the do it again button. So 1, 2, 3. We met Rikki Klieman with grace, whose sharp wit would win every case. On screen she'd explain the law clear and plain, with wisdom that none could replace. Ta-da! There
I
you
can
go.
write them, but I can't read them.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
and
Rikki.
We will we'll see you all of a sudden. Go get Rikki's book. It is an absolutely inspiring read from a beautiful, inspiring woman, and we're so grateful for your time today. And give our love to Bill. BBB.
Bye-bye.
Bring back Bill. Bye-bye.
Take care, you guys.
See you next week.
Yeah.
That was
Thanks for tuning in to TeaFlix, and check out Dr. Angie's books, Organic Teas and CBD at mrsmccartneysteas.com. Toodle pip.